On a beautiful Wednesday in South Philadelphia, we welcome you to our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2020 regular season, presented by DraftKings. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy here at the NovaCare Complex. And we're going to give you some feedback here, some sights into the Eagles world as we take a look at Darius Big Play Slay, who this week might have just a big-time assignment, Fran. Does he match up against the Bengals' A.J. Green or Tyler Boyd? How are you, Fran, first of all?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
Well, I can't say it 0-2. I'm great.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm doing great. I'm struggling like everybody else. We all want the Eagles to hurry up and get back on the field and win on Sunday. 2 0-2 teams playing 1 o'clock kickoff, Lincoln Financial Field. And let's talk Darius Slay here. Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz. We got a lot to talk about here. Your matchup, if you are Jim Schwartz, we'll talk about Jim Schwartz as well, who are you matching Big Play Slay up against on Sunday?
Well, if you look at the way that they distribute the football in Cincinnati, and you got the number one pick there in Joe Burrow, he's looked pretty good through 2 starts, Dave. And when you look at who he has funneled the ball to, A.J. Green has got 23 targets. After that, Tyler Boyd has 13. Gio Bernard, the running back, has 13. So by far, A.J. Green is the guy they funnel the football to. So, yeah, you probably, if you're going to go man-to-man and play matchups, my guess is if you're going to play straight man-to-man, it's Slay and A.J. Green if you're going to match up.
And for the Eagles offense, Carson Wentz going through his warm-ups, the offense needs to play much better football. The Eagles last in the NFL with a -5 turnover ratio. Carson Wentz, who has thrown only 7 interceptions in each of the previous 3 seasons, already has 4 and a lost fumble. And yet I admire his focus, his determination, Fran. He had a press conference again today, teleconference with the media. About 900 questions about, are you still confident? And Eagles fans, yes, number 11 is still confident, but he knows he has to cut down on the mistakes.
I mean, those are the ones that are the killers. You know, if you can take a missed overthrow, or you miss a guy down the sideline. It's the turnovers that are the ones that are tough to swallow. Against Washington in Week 1, those turnovers resulted in a pair of touchdowns right around halftime that put Washington back into that game. For this one, it was more the opposite, where they just took the wind out of the Eagles' sails. That interception in the third quarter in the end zone. The Eagles didn't sniff getting a touchdown after that, and they had some momentum on their side. So those turnovers absolutely swing the outcome of a football game.
And we're also going to talk about the offensive line. Nate Herbig, a central figure, improved play in Week 2, but the Eagles suffering another blow. Starting left guard Isaac Seumalo goes on injured reserve, and Brandon, it sounds like he's going to be out for a few weeks here. When we started this whole thing, okay, back when COVID hit, Brandon Brooks was your right guard. Andre Dillard was your left tackle. Seumalo, Kelsey, Lane Johnson, all familiar faces. Eagles are now 3 deep in the interior, and we're 2 weeks into the season.
We're 2 weeks in, and you missed Lane Johnson in Week 1, so you had one of these 2 games without arguably your best offensive lineman. So, yeah, the injury luck has not been on the Eagles' side so far through 2 games here in 2020.
Now, who replaces Seumalo? It could be rookie Jack Driscoll, who started Week 1 at right tackle against Washington. It could be Matt Pryor, who stepped in on Sunday against the Rams and who's got some experience here. It could be Jamon Brown, who the Eagles acquired off the Chicago Bears practice squad last week. We'll get a sense of it today here as we take a look at Philadelphia Eagles practice here at the NovaCare Complex, brought to you by DraftKings. Zach Ertz looking for more pay dirt. Brent, here's the thing about the Eagles offense. When you've got Deshaun Jackson and Jalen Reagor, soon hopefully Alshon Jeffrey, you feel good about your receiving core for the most part. Tight ends, Eagles run 12 personnel as much as any team in the league, if not more.
Way more, yep.
And you feel like, hey, there's opportunities to score points. 17 points in Week 1, 19 points in Week 2, and it really has been a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Yep. Any question marks, Fran, in your mind about the personnel, the ability to score points?
No, I think that their players are there. It's about, ultimately, you mentioned the turnovers, right? And the turnovers, if I remember right, 3 of these interceptions have come on first down. All 4 on first down.
That's the oddity of the whole thing.
Right?
I think all 4 are on first down.
That's killer. And especially the 2 against Washington were the first play of drives. I mean, that's absolutely crushes your your ability to be able to put points on the board. But then I think when you're looking at this too, it's not just the turnovers. You have some key drops in tough spots. You've got some missed blocking assignments. We saw the 8 sacks in week 1. We talked about that ad nauseum a week ago. That was not a problem this week. But you get to you have missed throws from the quarterback. It's a series of unfortunate events. All these these self-inflicted wounds that just come back to bite you. They all they all pile on top of each other.
It does remind you of the margin of error in the NFL. And a reporter this morning suggested to head coach Doug Peterson that Carson is missing some of the easy throws, the gimme throws. And Doug reminded him, hey, there is no such thing as a gimme throw in the NFL. But we certainly are accustomed to seeing Carson Wentz not turn the football over, make good decisions, and put points on the board. So we look for the Eagles offense to bounce back on Sunday. Let's talk a little bit about the Cincinnati Bengals, Fran. An 0-2 team led by, of course, the number 1 draft pick in the NFL draft in the spring, Joe Burrow, who led LSU to the national championship last year, 6'4" tall. 3 touchdown passes, 1 interception this year, coming off a great performance last week on Thursday night against the Browns, 300-plus yards and 3 TDs. Fran, this is a guy who's got athletic ability. He's earned a captain's nod as a rookie, which is really unusual. And everybody is rallying behind him. We know what it's like for a rebuilding team to have a young quarterback to rally around, to build behind. So forget about the 0-2 record. The Bengals, I think, are an extremely dangerous team.
They were I would say a ticky-tack offensive PI call away from beating the LA Chargers in week 1. Went toe-to-toe with a division rival where they just couldn't get a stop defensively last week on Thursday Night Football. You remember that Chargers team that they almost beat? They took the Chiefs, the Super Bowl champs, to overtime last week. So, this is a team in Cincinnati. Yeah, they're 0-2.
Yeah, Miles. I like it, Miles.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, dude.
No question.
Feeling good. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. No,
I'm just excited. When I see a player
of course. I mean,
at 0-2, see, the fans go, oh, my gosh, the sky's falling. And I get it because we all feel that way at times. But the players, you wash out the last game and you focus on the next game.
It's the only way to survive in the NFL. But again, they get a big test here this week because the Bengals, even though they're 0-2, this is a team that's going to compete. They're going to play to the final whistle. They're not a super talented team. Obviously, with the number 1 pick last year, they're missing in some key spots. But they've got playmakers. You mentioned A.J. Green. You mentioned Tyler Boyd. They've got Joe Mixon, one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. You've got Joe Burrow, captaining that ship. They're putting the ball in his hands. They're running the ball less than anybody. They're throwing it. So the Eagles' pass defense has to be able to show up in this game.
And they lost a tight end last week, but they've got another one coming up who has earned Burrow's confidence as well. So they're complete at the skill positions. The offensive line, not a great offensive line. Eagles need to dominate in the trenches, I feel. And Burrow, and talking to some people in Cincy this week, he's getting hit a lot. So I think the Eagles' focus is on getting around and into the grill of Joe Burrow on Sunday.
Yeah, the starting left tackle is Jonah Williams, who was the only tackle drafted ahead of Andre Dillard back in 2019. So he was a top 15 pick. And when you look at Jonah Williams, this is his first couple games. He had a rough outing in week 1 against Joey Bosa. Most people do. But then when you look at the rest of that offensive line, it's a young group. It's an inexperienced group on some of those spots. They've had 3 different right guards in 2 games. They're still trying to figure that out there on that spot. So that puts the onus on Fletcher Cox in this game. It's going to be a lot different than what they saw last week against the LA Rams. It's not a big play action, move the pocket. They might do some of those things because remember, people are going to make that Press Taylor, Zach Taylor comparison, right? The 2 brothers on opposite coaching staffs. Zach Taylor comes from the Sean McVay scheme, and while they do not play the same way schematically, you do see some of the same philosophical things as well. So it'll be interesting to see what Cincinnati takes away from the LA game plan in week 2.
Now, from a defensive standpoint, as we look at the bodyguard there, and boy, Alshon Jeffrey carrying a helmet, which I think is a good sign. Haven't seen him carrying a helmet in practice here. Of course, is that Connor Barwin?
It is Connor Barwin with JP, yep.
A little team meeting here before practice. Doug Peterson saying, let's get after it today, boys. From a defensive standpoint, Cincinnati gashed for 210 rushing yards by the Cleveland Browns last Thursday night. Eagles, of course, got the running game going a bit. Now, we do expect Cincinnati to get back one or two of their injured defensive tackles. Geno Atkins, Mike Daniels. Trey Wayne's still out at cornerback. So the Bengals have some work to do, but if they can get that defensive line intact with Carlos Dunlap, I mean, they've got a good group up front. Eagles better be on their P's and Q's at the offensive line positions.
Running the football, or stopping the run, I should say, for the Cincinnati Bengals has been a chore. They are worst in the NFL right now in yards after contact. They are not getting enough tackles to the ground on a consistent basis. So the run game certainly going to be a point of emphasis here for the Eagles in this football game. You try to get things going. I thought the offensive line this week against LA, we talked a lot about, no sacks against Aaron Donald. No sacks. That's great. Only 3 hits on Carson Wentz. That's outstanding. I thought they got really good movement in the run game. And even more so that when we saw, Miles Sanders go for 90 yards, I thought there was opportunity for even more there. I think when you look at the way the offensive line moved people off the ball, I thought that was a really good sign for this team going into week 3 against the Cincinnati team that struggles to defend the run.
Miles Sanders ran for 95 yards, had 131 all-purpose yards.
Yep.
And Franny could have had more.
He could have.
Tried to bounce it outside a couple of times. Maybe just, and that's his first game back.
Sure.
He talked before the game about his goal this year is to be more decisive, put the foot in the ground and get up the field. And at times did not do that on Sunday. Look for more of that this week against the Bengals. More decisive north-south running from Miles Sanders. And if the offensive line plays the way it played on Sunday against the Rams, Eagles should be able to run the ball.
And the good thing about that, too, is that I thought he got a little bit more decisive as the game went on. You saw first quarter, second quarter, obviously he had the fumble in the opening drive, but second quarter, I thought he was still kind of finding his way. Third quarter, fourth quarter, I thought that was when he looked his best, Miles Sanders, between the tackles. So certainly that could be a good sign moving forward into week 3 as well.
If you are just joining us, we welcome you to our continuing coverage of the 2020 Philadelphia Eagles regular season, our weekly live stream presented by DraftKings here at the NovaCare Complex. Insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy. Pleased to be with you. Keeping our optimism here, as I'm sure all of you are. We've been down this road before. Eagles have not started 0-3. You know when? I do know when.
Was it 2000 and...
No.
No? Oh, way before that, huh?
Yes.
So when we talking? 97?
1999.
Ah, there we go.
Andy Reid, the head coach. Doug Peterson, the quarterback. Eagles started 0-4, I believe, and then Doug Peterson leads the Eagles to a victory over the Dallas Cowboys at Veterans Stadium, throwing the winning touchdown to wide receiver Charles Johnson.
There we go.
Doug claim to fame as the starting quarterback for the Eagles. Replaced soon thereafter by Donovan McNabb. Working on some drills here, some breakdown drills in the special teams area where the Eagles last week produced a takeaway. Fran, the defense has not yet taken the football away. Why?
It's always tough, man. I do think there's a certain amount of luck involved with creating some turnovers. So you need a bad throw from a quarterback. You need the fumble luck. And I think when you look at the week 1 against Washington, Josh Sweat nearly makes one of the hugest plays in the game. He gets the ball on the ground. The Eagles just could not recover. I believe was it Jannard Avery that was right there in the area. Yes. Same game. Dwayne Haskins floats a pass over the middle right into the hands of Avonte Maddox.
Yeah.
8 times out of 10, Avonte finishes that, and it's probably going to the house. On that one occasion, it goes through his hands, and the Eagles don't get the turnover. They get a stop and a forced missed field goal, but they don't get the turnover. So, to me, I think it's always tough to say, and I think Jim Schwartz, when he's been asked about this in the past, he'll say, they come in bunches. You go through the peaks and valleys with creating turnovers. You've got to hope that they're due at this point.
And I would suggest that teams are very aware of the Eagles' front, and quarterbacks are getting the football out of their hands quickly. And
yes.
We saw Jared Goff move out of the pocket a lot. But at some point here, the Eagles' defensive front has to create pressure and has to create some balls that are up for grabs in the passing game. So far, so good for Joe Burrow. Now, the Eagles have had 2 games to watch him and study the offense. And as you watch more of young players, you get more of a book on them and you find their weaknesses. So I'm going to be very interested. Jim Schwartz, who said this week that he blamed himself for the defensive game plan against the Rams. What does he do against Cincinnati? Sends a little pressure. You got to get into the grill. You got to get into the pocket a little bit. You got to make Joe Burrow aware of the pressure. Can't let him sit back there. Very talented thrower.
So you mentioned Jared Goff and then moving the pocket, and a lot of that has to do, if you let them get on a roll where first down, they get 7 yards. Second down, they get 3 yards. All right, now that's first down again. They get 5 more yards. You got to get them behind the sticks. When the Eagles defense were able to get LA behind the sticks, they could just rush the passer. You weren't worried about the bootleg. You weren't worried about all the misdirection. You're just trying to get after the quarterback. The Eagles' defensive line had success. Against Cincinnati, they don't do a lot of those same things. That being said, one thing they do more than anyone in the NFL, Dave, is they line up in what's called an empty set, where it's just Joe Burrow in the backfield. He's in the shotgun. There's no running back, and it's 5 receivers spread across the width of the field. In that situation, the ball is going to come out fast, and so that's going to make it harder on the defensive line. So how do you defend that? You've got to disrupt the timing. So whether that means you blitz and you force him off his spot and you make him feel uncomfortable, whether that means it's press coverage on the outside, you're disguising coverage and trying to, maybe you're double teaming a guy in the middle of the field to try and erase that early part of the progression, force him to hold the football. Whatever it is, there's got to be a way to force Burrow to hold the football and allow that defensive line to be able to get home. They run empty more than any team in the NFL. They do it at a very high level. That's something Burrow did at LSU at a very high level. So good job for the Cincinnati staff of incorporating that into the offense this year, because it was not something they did well a year ago. But that to me, and we're going to talk about this in depth this week on Eagles game plan. That is going to be a huge part of this matchup.
So we're looking at combination blocking here with Lane Johnson working next to Matt Pryor. We do not quite know what the Eagles are going to do as far as replacing Isaac Seumalo, but Doug Peterson saying that having Pryor at right guard and Herbig at left guard might be an option this week. We'll keep our eye on it through the rest of the week as the Eagles working through yet another combination along the offensive line.
You see Driscoll on the left side of your screen there, watching from a distance.
We all knew coming into the season, Fran, that the Eagles' depth along the offensive line would be a point to watch. And then when you lose players continually, it's been Brooks, it's been Dillard, it's been Seumalo, 3 projected starters. That is not easy to overcome.
Because you go from, wow, man, they've got a lot of really young players, a lot of good depth, and then all of a sudden those young guys that you counted on to be depth are now starters, and now it's like, all right, well, who's the depth now? And it's just unproven players. That's why going out and getting a guy that has been in the league, has been a starter, and Jamon Brown, just to at least give you some level of certainty there is important. And it was a good job by the Eagles pro scouting staff of identifying and acquiring him.
So we're looking at the Eagles practice here on this beautiful Wednesday in South Philadelphia at the NovaCare Complex. And we're going to be here for about 30 minutes total. We started at 1:55 Philadelphia time. Dave Spadero along with Fran Duffy. It's our continuing coverage of the Eagles 2020 season presented by DraftKings here at the NovaCare Complex. And, you want to see energy. You want to see a lot of purpose. You want to see players being physical. It's a padded practice on this Wednesday. It's a good thing. I have to imagine that in the locker room, the level of urgency is through the roof, because while it's the Bengals this week, after that, it's a road trip to San Fran. It's a road trip to Pittsburgh. It's home with Baltimore, and then the Giants. This is a very difficult stretch.
Isn't it Giants, Cowboys, Giants too?
I think it is Cowboys, Giants, Cowboys.
This is an important stretch of the schedule.
Yeah.
Really important.
And the NFC East, we feel like it's going to be open, although the Cowboys win on Sunday was a bummer. Atlanta, come on, jump on that onside kick.
Unreal.
What are you doing?
Unreal.
But credit the Cowboys. They had a bunch of injuries. They were in a deep hole, and they kept fighting, clawing, scratching. That's what we need to see the Philadelphia Eagles do this week. Yep. Play with urgency. And they were doing it, Fran, after a terrible start on Sunday, to come back and to be within 5 points, and then to have Carson throw the interception, which he has owned. He said today as he rolled left, he saw Arcega-Whiteside open. He wasn't open. Coverage by the safety over the top, the cornerback underneath. Bad decision, one that Carson Wentz said he would like to have back.
Yeah, and again, especially on first down, just on the brink of the red zone. They're on the 21-yard line. Like, it's just one of those plays. And it's because, we talked a week earlier about, Carson's got to get rid of the football, understand when to play for the next play. I thought throughout the game on Sunday, he did that. There were a few plays where, he threw it out of bounds or he settled for, he took the check down and was able to play for the next play. That was just one, and it was in a key spot where, obviously he put that throw into harm's way. It was a great play by the corner by Williams, but still a decision, obviously, like you said, he would like to have back.
And I don't think Carson has had back-to-back games like this in his career. Sunday was the first time he had not thrown a touchdown since that horrible game in New Orleans in 2018, 48-7 loss. Since then, a touchdown in every game until Sunday. So it was a very tough way to open the home season at Lincoln Financial Field. Disappointing. We're all disappointed, but nobody is giving up. We've turned seasons around here before, and we're going to do it again here in 2020. It's a little dance move from Connor Barwin. Still got the groove. The Eagles playing the Cincinnati Bengals this week, 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. Eagles have not beaten Cincinnati since the 2000 season. Since then, the Eagles are 0-3-1. And as Wentz said today, Fran, you just don't see the Bengals very much. So that cross-study that opportunity is not really there.
No, it's not. We remember that one in 2016. That was Carson Wentz's rookie year. That was a rough day. Carson had a rough day. There were some plays on both sides of the football that I think a lot of fans and local media really pounded the table about that week afterwards. But, you see them once every 4 years. It's going to be an interesting matchup here.
As we watch punt returns, I've not seen Jalen Reagor return punts. Am I looking at the other camera up there and seeing him in sweatpants? Yeah, I think he's in sweatpants. I don't think Jalen Reagor is practicing. We'll have a bit of an injury update for you after practice. I'm not aware that he was injured in the game. I know that Slay came out of the game late, and we were all in the press box saying, "Oh gosh, did he hurt his hip?" What? It's great to see Darius Big Play Slay on the field now. So no lingering problems from that injury, but no word on the Reagor, why Reagor is not in uniform. And there he is in our camera 4. There he is. Yeah. Jalen Reagor not practicing today. That's a bummer.
No Malik Jackson, also not practicing according to media reports. Just checking Twitter at the moment.
Kind of want everybody out there. This is a big week. This is the biggest week. Take a look at the Eagles' defensive line, which really needs to get unlocked here, Fran. And Javon Hargrave, surprising active for me. I was surprised he was active. Rusty for sure.
Yep.
Against the Rams, should be much better this week against the Bengals.
Talk about not familiar. One guy who is familiar with the Cincinnati Bengals, Hargrave. He's seen them every year, twice a year, playing in the AFC North.
When Hargrave is on his game, Fran, what can we expect from him?
Very disruptive player. This is a guy that played in a 3-4, so certainly he brings that ability to stop the run, and he can do that. But what made him so attractive for the Eagles is the potential in their scheme. He showed the ability in sub packages with the Steelers to be able to get after the quarterback, but in a scheme like this one, with him able to just kind of pin his ears back and go after the passer down after down after down, the potential was there for him to be even better. You talk about like the baseball analogy of, this guy was a 7-hitter. Now we think we can move him up into the 4-hole or the 3-hole and he'll have a ton of success. That's kind of the idea here with Hargrave, is that, he's got that. What he showed in Pittsburgh is a really good harbinger for what he could be in this scheme.
We take a look at the Eagles running backs. Miles Sanders getting ready for game number 2 of his 2020 season. Solid performance against the Rams, and Jalen Hurts there working in as well as the Eagles go through their rotation of quarterbacks. Sanders, 131 total yards, 95 on the ground. Could have been more. Get up the field. Don't try to break it outside for the big play.
Got a couple drops, too, in the passing game as well, which is uncharacteristic.
First game.
Yep.
Hey, we're going to see some. That's the thing. That's why that week 1 loss is so huge. It could have been ugly. Who cares? Just go find a way to win that game.
You heard the call from Brad Sham, right, for the Cowboys?
No.
Said, kiss that pig. He's talking about putting lipstick on a pig. The ugly loss, no one cares if it's an ugly loss when it's week 15, week 16. You look back, all that matters is that it's a win.
The line from Ron Jaworski is they never ask you how.
Exactly
They
right.
only ask you how many.
That's right. It's all about stacking wins, and this is every NFL season. But I feel like in this one, it's as important. And I feel like that stretch. I mean, it's usually like that first 4 games where teams are trying to find their identity because the identity changes year after year, and you're trying to figure out who are we as a team on both sides of the ball. That might get elongated. I feel like instead of it being 3-4 weeks, it's going to be more 5, 6, 7 weeks. So it's important until you get to that point where you know who you are as a team, that you just find a way to get as many wins as possible. And that's what this next stretch is going to be so important.
Defensive line doing some drills here. Get off the ball. Javon Hargrave, who we spoke about earlier. Once you see that noodle move,
get out of your
get
stance.
out of there.
That's it.
And we do think the Eagles' defensive line will be a dominating presence. And hopefully will be a dominating presence on Sunday against a Bengals offensive line that is still trying to find itself. A lot of hits on Burrow, who's been sacked 6 times. Hit a bunch. But the kid's only got 1 interception. So he's obviously making the game is not too fast for him. The moment is not too big for him.
He has looked poised. He's looked very comfortable. And that's the goal, I would think, for the Eagles is to make him feel as uncomfortable as possible as early and often as you can in this game.
And the thing about Burrow, Fran, he's basically a 1-year star at LSU.
Yeah.
I wonder, in terms of guys that you've seen at the quarterback position, does he stand out from the years past?
I think that when you look at just the way that he plays, he was executing at such a high level in that scheme last year. And he started the year before. He transferred from Ohio State, the son of a college coach. And, so there was a lot of thought like, all right, well, he's going to go in. He's going to get his first chance to start. He lost the job to Dwayne Haskins at Ohio State, and that's why he transferred. And goes to LSU, and the first year was just okay. He was fine. People thought he would be a, mid-round, late-round draft pick. New offensive scheme. Joe Brady comes from the Saints. They open things up. And, I mean, he was executing at such a high level. And all the things that people look for at the quarterback spot, it's not like, the traits were unbelievable. He's not the, biggest, strongest, fastest, throw it a mile guy. But the traits are good enough. And, like I said, all the intangibles are there. The poise, the accuracy, the calmness you look for. So it's a big test for the Eagles for sure.
Now, I offer anybody who weighs 175 pounds to do this drill. You're looking at 300-pound. Well, not really 300 pounds. You're looking at 250-pound linemen. Let's go back to that drill. I'd rather see the defensive line drill. I like the D-line drill. Quarterback's rolling out. Nate Sudfeld doing a little rollout drill here. Here we go.
Arnett should be good at this drill. This is something that he's always been able to do at a high level.
Was that good?
The video kind of dropped a little bit, so it was tough to see him turn the corner.
Look at Fran bailing out on it. I saw a couple slips there. To keep your feet. Let's see. Here's this Hargrave.
Hargrave or McGill? It is
Hargrave. Okay. Let's see what he has here. This is a man who. What does he weigh?
I mean, Hargrave. He's over 3 for sure. Hargrave. Pretty good.
Yeah. Do you believe that you could beat any Eagles player in a 40-yard dash?
No. Are you kidding me? No. Absolutely. I feel no.
100-yard dash.
100-yard, you have a better shot, but still no.
Okay. I agree. We're not athletes, real athletes. I mean, we pretend to be athletes.
Pretend to be. You dream to be.
Yeah. I never say that I'm an athlete around an NFL player.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like it's so embarrassing. Yeah, my rec league, I scored 32 points one time back in 300 years ago.
You should probably be able to beat a couple of those guys in tennis, though.
I've challenged Jake Elliott in tennis many times, and he's scoffed at me. He won't even give me the dignity of a maybe, or setting a fake date.
He was big time in like high school, right? Like big time tennis player in high school.
Big time schmink time. Yeah. So what? He's washed up tennis player.
Golf? You might be able to get a shot of him in golf.
I'm not beating anybody in golf. Golf has nothing to do with anything. Golf's not for athletes. Well, that's not true.
Mike Quick would
Mike
beg to differ on
Merrill,
that.
I literally was just thinking of what Merrill Reese would say if he heard me say that. We do wonder about Carson Wentz in terms of just the first time in his career going through this. And how does he respond? Been a tough couple of games for the offense. we do have the expectation that this offense will find its legs. Stay aggressive. Do the Eagles take shots, Fran, on Sunday? Or do you want to run the ball? Like, what do you want to do?
I think I think you look at Thursday night, right? Because if you look at the numbers, they're middle of the pack in terms of getting up big plays in the passing game. But they played LA in Week 1, the LA Chargers. They're not a downfield passing attack. You look at what Cleveland did last week. Odell Beckham was able to create some big plays. They were able to attack down the field. You have to watch for that center fielder, that free safety, Dave. Jesse Bates, the third-year player. He's a guy that can make plays outside the numbers. You got to watch out for him and know where he is at all times. But I think, try and see if he can take some advantage of some big plays down the field. And then run, as I mentioned, they have not been able to stop the run. I mean, the tackling has been bad at all three levels. They have not been able to secure the running back. So I got to think that a lot of things are on the table here for the Eagles in this game. And you want to try and take some pressure off the offensive line. If there are new guys in the lineup and you're shuffling things around, one of the best ways to do that is with the run game and get the run game going. I'm interested to see what the game plan is, though.
Richard Rodgers, tight end number 3, generally used as a blocker, returning back to the Eagles just prior to the start of the regular season. We welcome anybody who's coming in late here to our continuing coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles 2020 regular season presented by DraftKings. It's our padded practice, our live stream of the week on this beautiful Wednesday. A new day brings new opportunity and new hope for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm Eagles insider Dave Spadaro, along with Fran Duffy, and we've got you covered wall to wall with Eagles all the time on our PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our official team app, as well as our social media channels. And we thank everybody for their support every day and throughout the many, many years that certainly I have been here. We know how much the Philadelphia Eagles mean to you. And I will tell you, having gone to the stadium on Sunday, just how much we all miss not having the fans in attendance. And we hope that at some point this season there will be fans.
Yep.
Because, man, oh, man, do we miss the energy.
Was it weird, like even just walking over?
So here's the thing, and I want to make sure that everybody understands. Walking over, they had police making sure that people didn't tailgate. And I understand that there was some noise on the television broadcast, cheers and some that were not so cheerful.
Right, yep.
That comes from the Fox broadcast. In the stadium, Fran, I sat out in the stands for a couple of plays late, and you can hear the sidelines from the stands. The noise that they quote-unquote pump in by NFL standards, it's got to stay at a certain level, and it's a very low level. It's like almost a murmur.
Right.
And so you really can't. It's very indistinguishable, and it doesn't change. It's not like they're pumping in celebration when the Eagles do well or anything like that.
Does it feel like there's like the scrimmage that we saw earlier this summer?
Yeah, but the noise was actually less. Like it's you really. I heard the Rams sidelines because at the time the Rams were finishing up the game and doing well, and they were really loud, and it carried all the way into the stands. So players really need to get self-motivation and pumped for each other and play to the cameras. And I talked to Jalen Mills about that yesterday, and he said, yeah, there were times when I, looked up ready to kind of celebrate with the crowd, and there was no crowd there. So it's a fact of life, and it is something that players really have to understand, and that's just the way it's going to be here.
Unfortunately. Hopefully sooner rather than later we can get back to some sort of, of normalcy, but that remains to be seen.
We have a few more minutes left here in our live stream on this beautiful Wednesday here at the NovaCare Complex. Our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles regular season. Presented by DraftKings, Dave Spadaro, Fran Duffy on this Wednesday.
What was the most recent Eagles Insider podcast, Dave? I know.
So
one
we had
morning.
yesterday, we had Lane Johnson on. We had Doug Peterson on. We had Jeff Hobson from Bengals.com on.
Very nice.
Yeah. It was interesting to hear the perspective from the Bengals. An 0-2 team, but they look at it and say, hey, our quarterback is the real deal.
Yep.
Just like the Eagles in 2016. And you see how far that can carry you.
That's right.
Carry the Eagles all the way to the Super Bowl.
Give you a lot of hope. And that means a lot for a lot of the players on that team.
Zach Ertz entered the season 65 catches away from setting an all-time Eagles record in career receptions. What's he got now? 8 catches this year, I think?
I think so far, yeah.
So
we've
he's
got a couple
57 more away?
Shouldn't
be too much longer.
Yeah, should not be. we talked about the amount of 12 personnel, one back, 2 tight ends with both Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. We talked about that a lot this week on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast. You can find both these shows wherever podcasts can be found. But the Eagles they got to find ways to be able to create some big plays from that look. They were in that look almost 80% of the time last week. So, again, you're trying to find the ways, the best way to get your 5 best players on the field in any given situation. And obviously, when you have Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, we saw what Dallas Goedert did in week 1. You got to get those guys on the field as often as possible, and they have.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, friend. Why would the Eagles go to 12 personnel? What is the thinking there?
So the thinking is that when you have a tight end who can both run and catch, now you're forcing the defense to kind of declare, and you can work off that. If they're going to try and come in with bigger personnel, now you spread them out and throw. If they're going to come in lighter, now you can line up and run. It gives you a lot of flexibility.
Good stuff there. Look for that a lot on Sunday against the Bengals. We thank everybody for joining us on this Wednesday here as we continue our coverage of the Philadelphia Eagles in this 2020 regular season, presented by DraftKings. Insider Dave Spadaro along with Fran Duffy. Make sure you stick with us throughout the day and the week, and we get to game day on Sunday, Eagles and the Bengals. Our kickoff show presented by Exalta starts at 12:15. Our post-game show presented by Rico gives you the reaction from the Eagles head coach Doug Peterson and from the players after, hopefully, the Eagles notch their first victory of this 2020 season. I'm Insider Dave Spadaro for Fran Duffy. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have yourselves a great Eagles day, and fly, Eagles, fly.